Hi everybody, and welcome back to Bad Lip Service. Giving someone who worries about the voices in their head an extra voice inside their head. Sort of. I have a reasonable level of interest in comedy, having spent some time in my younger years attempting to do stand-up at open mic nights. Indeed, I probably still would be attempting to do that, were I not living so far in the arse end of nowhere that the stench of shit is overwhelming.
Well, that's definitely shite.
Quite often, literally, if the muck spreaders and chicken farmers have their way. Curse you, geography.
I curse you.
Although I might also be hampered by, my voice not working. So whilst it's fair to say that stand-up comedy may be a challenge these days, both the comedy and the standing up, I still maintain a bleary eye over it, be it live comedy, new sitcoms and sketch shows, and perhaps of most relevance to this video, panel shows. I've been watching with interest the debate that's rumbled on throughout the past few weeks since the new Director General of the BBC, Tim Davie, stated that he wanted to find a better balance of satirical targets rather than constantly aiming jokes at the Tories.
Stop! He's already dead!
This implies that it will be panel shows such as Mock the Week and Have I Got News for You that will be most on his radar, as well as perhaps topical comedy programmes such as The MASH Report and Frankie Boyle's New World Order. Whilst reading about it, I found myself, rightly or wrongly, thinking back to when it was announced that there would be a requirement for a female comedian to appear on all these sorts of shows. Now, don't for a second thinking I'm equating the personal decision of having right or left-wing views with gender, which last time I checked I was never asked to make a decision about, which I'm grateful for, as with long hair and a beard it might be assumed I'd chosen to be a Mediterranean grandmother.
I curse you.
But they both represent the powers that be, artificially altering the voices you're liable to see on your screen.
No, not again!
I was caught in two minds when the requirement for shows to have less testosterone was announced. On the one hand, it meant that the BBC were improving at having a balanced representation, which can only be a good thing.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
On the other, it increased the possibility that comedians who wouldn't otherwise be deemed as good enough to be on TV at all would be thrust into the spotlight just to fill a quota. And furthermore, even if that wasn't the case, it would eternally pretend to justify the rhetoric spouted by the kind of Twitter accounts who frequently emit their viewpoint that this is political correctness gone mad and that women just aren't funny, the latter part of which especially is utter bollocks.
Oh, bollocks!
But if the decision has impeded comedy from being a meritocracy, then to me at least it isn't obvious, and it has improved the rounding out of viewpoints. But having taken that decision to attempt to represent the general public, there is a responsibility to apply that consistently. And to apply that consistently, it would seem that there is a lack of right-wing comedy currently being covered by the licence fee. Now, there are reasons for that. To begin with, it's no secret that the majority of comedians are left-leaning. In fact, I would guess, although I have no evidence to support it, that the percentage of right-leaning comedians is probably a fair bit lower than the percentage of female comedians. Is there a stronger argument that meritocracy would be lost by having to dig even deeper into the comedy circuit to look for right-wing humour than female talent? Potentially, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. The next reason is that the style of programming we're talking about is satire. Satire typically lambasts those in charge. It has to primarily punch up. It speaks volumes about a programme like Have I Got News for You, that during the extended Labour government of Blair and Brown, yes, there was once a Labour government, kids, ask your history teacher, and Widdicombe, primarily known for Strictly and homophobia, which feels a bit like being known for MasterChef and a hunger strike, stated her opinion that Ian Hislop and Paul Merton were two of the finest wits on television.
Did you know? Yeah, Ian told me.
The fact is that they, at least, have always spent more time making a fool of those with the power. Is it therefore entirely understandable that in this extended period of Conservative leadership, they bear the brunt of the jokes? In my opinion, yes. But does that mean we can't look at having more of a balance? No.
Perfectly balanced, this whole...
One of the main reasons that I've seen in response to this news is people stating that right-wing comedy isn't funny. The observant amongst you might notice that this has been said by a different group of people somewhere before.
I've seen everything. I've seen it all.
Humour is a subjective thing, and thus the people who bemoan the funny bones, or therefore lack of it, of female comedians, are perhaps among those for whom a more right-wing voice would appeal, and vice versa.
A little from column A, a little from column B.
The fact that we don't personally find something funny doesn't mean it shouldn't be heard. Indeed, in some cases, hearing things we don't find funny can be beneficial to ensure we don't exist in an echo chamber. And it should be stated that no one is advocating for the return of Bernard Mann. A good thing, really, as to call for that would be a call for zombies, and I think we can all agree that zombie comedy isn't something that licence fee neutrality requires.
Everybody in the terminal thinks there's some type of zombie and ready to go off.
Instead, it's for these satirical programmes to give the right of response to people who can fire shots against the existing voices without punching down to the levels of discrimination. It's a fine balance to be struck, and there is no doubt that efforts to achieve a true balance will not always work perfectly.
Perfectly balanced.
But if things that didn't work perfectly were given up on, then I wouldn't currently be able to share my views with you, and I think we can all agree that that would be a travesty.
No.
For now, let's just see where this takes us, and not be hypocritical enough to use the just isn't funny argument, unless it's about, in which case it's justified. But on that note, it's time for me to shut up.
Sucks to be you.
He's been Z and she's been Caroline from wherever you want to be from, and we've been Bad Lip Service.
Thank you, that's fine. We can go now.